I've found out working with Tommies, there's over 13 kinds of miscarriages you can have, and I had 4 of them. A missed miscarriage. My friend had an ectopic, which you can either die from or you can die from. There has to be more education in this field, and we just haven't had enough of a spotlight on it because it's been one of those things that women have learnt just to put up with.
Hey guys, welcome back to another React. Today we're going to be discussing, is miscarriage still seen as a female issue? Dive in, can you please like, subscribe and ring that notification bell?
Mylene, congratulations on your MBE.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well done. That was, it took me 6 months to get a cup. Look at that.
I love it. Honestly, I'm blown away.
How was it? How do you feel? How did it happen?
It does feel really special, actually, because the reason I've got my MBE, said it the first time, it's for my services to Miscarriage and the work that I've been doing with Tommies. So it feels really important, but because it is that subject matter, all that work usually just understandably feels really sad and it's very heavy. But this just can show my children, you know, who were with me when we opened the letter, that actually there is light and I can use this for good, because the King has to sign it off, the Prime Minister has to sign it off. So it's getting in front of the right people already.
And hopefully bolsters you a little bit as well, to move forward with the movement.
It makes me so determined. It makes me so determined because all the plans that I've got for where miscarriage care should be going, it's something that we just have for so long as women just put up with. It's just one of those things. It's not one of those things. We can do so much about it. We need data collection. We're going to work on that. Also, more education for girls and boys as to looking after their own fertility. So there's just so much that can be done. And this just shows you actually all the right people are now paying attention. And so now that I've got their ear, if you like, this is the beginning, this isn't the end.
And as you say, it came with a very sort of fancy letter, doesn't it?
A letter.
It's not just any old letter.
Well,
frame it.
I'm going to frame the letter because I've had to keep it a secret for so long. The postman went to my neighbour's house the first time we weren't there, and he saw the insignia, you know, on the front. So he knew something special was coming. So the neighbours were whispering. So when it finally came to my house, the kids were with me. We opened the letter. Everyone was really excited. But my son now thinks that every time the postman comes, it's a letter from the King or the Queen. But it's weird because it turns out it is. We came back from holiday and there was another letter, and this time it was from Queen Camilla, saying congratulations. So he just thinks that the King and the Queen keep writing to us, which is very nice. But we're all so excited. Everyone's picking out fascinators.
And when is it? How long now till
I don't know. I'm waiting for the next letter.
Oh, right.
So there will be another one, exactly.
Yeah, but it's lovely that they can see that actually, you know, because my children have lived through all of this. They can see that change can happen, but you have to make it happen. And I like the idea that they can see that you don't pull the ladder up behind you as well. That, you know, that their mum is continuing to call for change because it could affect them. God forbid it does. It doesn't. But if it does, they'll know that the path has been paved. Because
and hopefully we're in a
change.
different place because there are so many things that need to change though, Mylene. A lot of it's education as well, amongst us women, but also amongst boys and young men. And this comes from school age, really, I think.
Think about the PSHE lessons that they have. You know, you learn about reproduction, but you don't learn about what happens if it goes wrong. And I didn't learn until way down the line when I was experiencing it that actually male fertility is a key part of this, you know, not having hot baths, alcohol, riding bikes, being a lorry driver. These play a huge part in the male side of fertility. For women, you don't have any control, but there's so much blame. People will say to you, you know, maybe you shouldn't have lifted that heavy box, or what did you eat, what did you drink, what were you doing? It's not their fault, and for a long time I blamed myself. But then I've found out working with Tommies, there's over 13 kinds of miscarriages you can have, and I had 4 of them. A missed miscarriage, my friend had an ectopic, which you can either die from or you can die from. There has to be more education in this field, and we just haven't had enough of a spotlight on it because it's been one of those things that women have learnt just to put up with.
Well, I think for years
It's really key, Gemma, isn't it, that when she talks about miscarriage not just being the female, it is absolutely can be attributed
to the sperm
Yep.
and the factors around good sperm health. I know when I'm talking to intended parents and getting them fit for fertility, I always call it, and having worked in the sector for a long time, it's really important that when you're embarking on a pregnancy journey, whether it's for yourself or with your surrogate, with your gametes, etc., that those gametes are in the best of health and can give rise to the best embryo that then can give rise to the best pregnancy. We know that 1 in 4 pregnancies do end up in miscarriage. And as Mylene quite rightly says in that video there's numerous reasons why somebody miscarriages. And they can be supported and helped if you put in place the right infrastructure at the beginning and protect your eggs and your sperm to get the best outcome from them. And that includes being fit for fertility.
Absolutely.
So being really considerate if you're, on a natural journey or a fertility journey or a surrogacy journey, doesn't matter. You need to get yourself into that best space. So that is avoiding alcohol, smoking, recreational substances. For the guys, wearing tight underwear, exposing their testicles to heat, saunas, hot tubs, sitting on a bicycle, wearing lycra, all of these things. And again, with the females, that they're getting themselves into their best shape and recognizing their bodies and how they're responding to nutrition and to health and to exercise, alcohol, smoking. All of those things have a huge detrimental effect on your gametes that then imposes themselves onto the embryo itself, and then the reason why a miscarriage happens.
Absolutely.
And sadly, 1 in 4 will miscarry, and that's because there's something chromosomally not correct with that embryo, most likely.
Absolutely. And I think I've definitely noticed there's been quite a lot recently on social media and in the media about male fertility and, like you say, the impact that can have. And I love the fact that there seems to be a bit of a spotlight on that at the moment, because I think it is drummed into women from quite a young age that it's all about your egg quality and the age of your eggs and that kind of thing. And just the assumption is that men's sperm is always going to be fine. It's the jokes about shooting blanks, but it's so much more than that. And that I definitely noticed when I sat in on a couple of your clinical consultations when I first started at MSJ. I love the fact that you focus on the male fertility health as well, because I think so many people go into a fertility journey assuming that they know what the issue is. And it's really important that men also understand the impact that their sperm can have on the outcome.
It's really shocking as well, isn't it? I know we work with a unique group of people, as in intended parents, but within the fertility industry, it's shocking how many women and men have very little context around their own reproductive health and what that should look like. And, men think they're infallible. They think there's no problem. Same-sex male couples think they're not infertile. They're coming to us because they need surrogacy. That's their route to parenthood, but their sperm's okay. And the shocks that they get. And then when I talk to them around a male reproductive cycle, which is 3 months. So what if they were ejaculating today, what they did 3 months ago has an impact on that sample today. And the looks on their faces, and they say, we had that boozy stag weekend. It was Christmas, or it was the office parties, or I stopped smoking a month ago. All of those things have just such a massive impact. I have daily saunas. I sit in a hot tub every night. Those things that they have such little knowledge about. So when they talk about education, it's really, really key, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's because I know when I was younger as well, and I had a miscarriage after Jake, but I also had a threatened miscarriage. That's the word
another
for it,
kind
but
of miscarriage,
a threatened miscarriage when I was pregnant with Shane. And basically I was told there's nothing we can do, go home, lie on your couch 24 hours, don't move. And what will be, will be. But also, I think, women are always told, well, it's nature's way, it wasn't meant to be. But actually what you're saying is that's not necessarily true. I mean, I'm sure sometimes it's true.
There are many times, I lost 4.
Right.
There was nothing I could have done. And it was reassuring to hear that there were 3 different trisomies, which are genetic. discrepancies that they tested for. So that actually weirdly gave me relief, because you feel like, God, am I the worst mother? Could I have done something different? But with my son, they gave me progesterone, which they found out was something that I definitely needed. And we've found out with Tommy's that 8,500 babies can be saved every year with progesterone. But GPs just haven't, through no fault of their own, been given the specialist treatment to be able to administer it to women.
Yeah.
So again, even education within our health sector, our GPs don't know enough about this subject.
No.
And sadly, in the UK, you won't even be investigated for miscarriages until you've had 3.
Wow.
That's quite significant, isn't it?
Yeah.
That
To have to feel that you have to reach that goal almost.
and the trauma,
Insane. Yeah.
and particularly if you're an older couple, an older person, and time is of the essence, really.
Yeah.
And every miscarriage is another knock. We have wonderful advances within the fertility sector. We can test embryos, so we know if they're chromosomally normal. That's hugely insightful and gives some reassurance that you've got a chromosomally normal embryo, because we know that the majority of embryos that end up miscarrying are because they're chromosomally abnormal. But if you've tried naturally, you don't have access to that information, and you don't know all of what's available to you, because it's the most natural thing in the world, isn't it? To procreate and to get together as a couple in a heterosexual relationship and create that beautiful pregnancy. But if you're continuously having miscarriages, there's something intrinsically wrong.
Yeah.
And you need to start investigating, and that's the loophole and the rabbit hole.
It should be earlier.
Yeah. And education, as Mylene quite rightly said, from a very early age, school level age. So
There's that whole thing about you're taught at school how not to become pregnant, but there's not enough focus on how to become pregnant
and to protect that pregnancy.
Yeah, and the different ways that can happen as well.
Yeah, it's such a basic thing as progesterone. Progesterone is produced when you release an egg. There's a sac in your ovary that's called the corpus luteum, and that produces the progesterone that supports implantation of the embryo and the ongoing pregnancy. And many women just don't have enough of that hormone to support the implantation and the pregnancy. And a simple, very cheap drug, pessary, can support that. But unless they're investigated, they won't know. And GPs don't automatically think, oh, well, they've had 1 miscarriage or they've had 2 miscarriages. Wait for the 3rd. They're still young, they're healthy. Wow.
It all come down to cost again.
It comes down to cost, but also we need one chain. We need one chain of command. So when something goes wrong, you go to the information and say, right, 1 miscarriage. This woman needs this kind of help. Oh, her age is 35. She needs a different kind of help. You can't treat, you treat 4 of us the same way, so you can't treat every other woman the same way. And also 3 consecutive miscarriages. In England, you have to wait for 3. In America, you have to wait for 2. Well, you wouldn't wait for 2 heart attacks, and nor should you. So for a long time, we've put up with it, and we're not going to do it any longer. By order of the king.
I had 2 pregnancies with no problem. Then I got pregnant for the 3rd time, and something didn't feel right from the very beginning. And I rang and asked, could I come in and have an MRI or a scan to see if everything was okay? And they said, yeah, come in. And I went along with my son, Louis, at the time. He was only quite small. And they were scanning me. And then all of a sudden she said, I'm just going to go and call somebody. I'm just going to go and call a doctor. Straight away, I knew something was wrong. Anyway, they came back and they said that the baby had died inside me. They sent me home with the dead baby inside me, and then I had to go back the next day, and then they gave me suction to remove and it would have been a little girl.
Again, management of miscarriage and the support and the infrastructure around that woman couple that needs so much. Most NHS provision now and clinics have access to early pregnancy clinics. And women that go into a routine ultrasound within an obstetric department should be referred to these amazing groups of people that can support them in this really terrible time for them. Being sent home, not knowing if you're going to bleed, if what's going to happen, without proper support behind you should not be happening in this day and age. It really shouldn't be. We know miscarriage is 1 in 4 pregnancy loss. we should be better at doing this.
Yeah, we should be set up to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they said she had an extra chromosome, so she wouldn't have survived anyway. But me and my husband kept saying, what have we done? What have we done wrong? Did we had sex? Could that have affected it?
Yeah.
You know, have we been picking heavy things up, all different things like that? But it just wasn't meant to be, I suppose, that day. But it was very, very sad. So
But
I would have had...
psychologically, you carry that with you every
You
single
do,
day.
yeah, because I still think now, you know, like she'd be in between Louis and Bobby.
Yeah.
But then if I had had that baby, maybe I wouldn't have had my daughter Bobby. So
Yeah,
that's why I was...
Yeah.
And that happens for a lot of people, I think. If you go through a miscarriage and then you are lucky enough to get pregnant after that, you spend the whole 9 months worrying
about
that it's
it,
going to
yeah.
happen again. There's so many elements to it, isn't there? And like you say, there's just the education, the financing. I was told by one doctor, I remember when I was pregnant with my little girl, that obviously we're underfunded when it comes to women's health, full stop.
Yeah.
But more money goes into trying to make the Viagra pill a better version of what it is than goes into women's health.
Well,
like
that's
that in
the
itself
problem
is
right
extraordinary when it comes to when we're talking about something that's so important. This is life. This is life. It's an incredible.
It is really refreshing to hear that there are celebrities getting on board. And, you know, whether that's right or wrong, they are putting the stakeholder in and they're letting their voices be heard so that we are affecting Parliament and government and the King and Queen, whoever it is, to take notice of these women's health issues that are really concerning, but not to take away from the fact that we must look after the couple. We must make sure that it's not just the women that's dealt with, because partners have a significant part to play within this whole process, and they can often be left outside the ultrasound room.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's no room in here for you. Or we just need to speak to your wife or your partner. Do you know that like allowing the male partner to not have an involvement in what is a significant life event for a couple is really, really catastrophically wrong. We must be better at recognising. We are getting better at involving the men within fertility and within obstetric pathways. But we still need to do more. We still need to make sure that all the people involved in that pregnancy is included and that has the right support.
That can become even more complicated with the surrogacy scenario, because there's not just two people involved or a solo parent. You know, there's usually 3 or 4 people involved in that pregnancy. So yeah, you're saying about partners being left outside. It's really critical that intended parents get the chance to be involved with, although the miscarriage isn't physically happening to them, it's obviously happening to their surrogate, but it's trying to balance the support for everybody that's involved, even more so in that kind of delicate situation, because you know the emotional impact that has on intended parents as well as surrogates is absolutely huge, in addition to the physical side of things for a surrogate, where it's also a complex dynamic for her, because she's losing a pregnancy. She's not losing her baby, but it's still that feeling. As they were talking about, what have I done wrong? That's an immediate reaction, I think, for a lot of surrogates, is to think, God, what did I shouldn't have gone out for dinner last night or whatever. You know, second guessing what they've done, when 9 times out of 10 it's on a chromosomal level that there's a reason why that miscarriage sadly happened. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's really important that everybody gets that support and gets space to have that care.
But you know, the key here is the education. And I hope that the new government support within women's health and male reproductive health reaches our school levels. That our children are coming through the systems really looking after their reproductive health in the best way that they can.
Incredible thing, Myla. And so your work has been amazing, and it's like you say, to hear all of these very big names, including the King, saying the word miscarriage and knowing that it's something that you're working on and that we're dealing with, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
and
well
we're all
done.
very,
You
very
cry.
proud of you. No, I mean it. Happy to. Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, so let's talk about the no investigations until you've had 3 miscarriages.
Yeah, that's just crazy. I mean, where does that come from, Debbie? Why 3?
That's been around since I've started in fertility. It's never changed. We only had 1 port of call, which was St Mary's in Paddington. That was throughout England, really, and that's where people went to, were referred to once they'd had 3 consecutive miscarriages. So you can't even have 1 and then have a pregnancy maybe and then have 2.
Oh, right.
They have to be 3 consecutive before you'll be investigated, and that involves a whole long blood profile looking, have you got any clotting factors that could be affecting that? Are there any other issues? Are there any chromosomal that do karyotyping and cystic fibrosis? Anything that could potentially, but again, they don't really test at that point the male.
Really?
So it's all about so it's really frustrating, but thankfully we're really asking government, asking the health organisations to look at where does this data come from? How can we change?
Yep.
Because if you had a 21-year-old that had had a miscarriage and then you've got a 36 or 37-year-old that's had a miscarriage, they are 2 very different people. A GP is not going to say to that, will say to that 37-year-old, go away and keep trying. Her reproductive years are ebbing away at such a fast rate at this point. The 21-year-old, I'm not negating that she can wait a bit longer, but she has got a little bit more time on her side. So asking a 21-year-old even to wait another, keep trying and see how things go is cruel.
It is.
And it's, we're underestimating what we're doing to these women by sending them away and just telling them to get on with it without really considering and thinking psychologically, what is that doing to that woman and to that couple who had a devastating loss, whatever those circumstances are. And we need to be really mindful of the age of that woman and that couple.
You can't treat them the same because, as they were saying, every miscarriage is different, and the treatment and the investigations or the time frames even for a 37-year-old should look very different to a 21-year-old.
Yeah, and the different types of miscarriages, quite often, if this is your first pregnancy, you're not going to get a scan unless you choose to do one privately until 12 to 15 weeks. Yeah. And you could have what they call a missed miscarriage, which means your body hasn't expelled this fetus, but you've had a baby that has demised at 7-8 weeks, and it's been in your body all this time. Your body still thinks you're pregnant. And so the hormones, everything is all there. Yeah. The
and then you get
sore boobs, all of those
crushing shock at 12 weeks and think, how have I gone this long without knowing that something was wrong?
And then all the complications around how do you manage that miscarriage. Most people will want to just have a medical, which means you may have a drug that could help expel it, or you just let things take its natural course. But you can't leave it go on too long, because if you end up with retained products of conception that then become infected, your body starts to attack, you can end up with a whole host of other complications regarding getting pregnant again the next time, and all that's gone on with this miscarriage. But we need to be much more proactive and supportive and treat each individual person that comes through for management of that miscarriage, how old they are, what time of their pregnancy was it, what type of miscarriage is it, what could have contributed towards it, and having a look at the couple as a whole and not just focusing on that woman.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So Debbie, talk to us about how NHS England decide where funding goes in terms of, we're talking about the gaps in miscarriage care and support.
It's difficult for me to say exactly how they fund certain areas of medicine.
It's a general rule.
Yeah. So I think what's highlighted within our health sector in the UK, if we have a rise in a certain medical condition, whether it's cardiology or rheumatology or whatever it might be, and they find that there is a higher prevalence in one of those medical areas, then funding will be put towards supporting that. And of course, there's only one pot of money.
Yeah.
And they have to divide that pot of money equally to support every realm of medicine, including infertility and pregnancy and obstetrics. And sometimes they will make decisions on where that pot of money needs to go in the best interests of the UK population and what is happening at whatever current time. And generally, female health or women's health has been left to the wayside because we have periods every month. We have to get on with that. Conditions such as endometriosis have been left on the wayside for far too long. Young girls suffering horrendously, month on month on month, and not being looked after correctly.
Just being told to take paracetamol and get rid of this.
And that's horrific, because then those young women are ending up in fertility clinics because their reproductive health was not looked after in the correct way at a much earlier age, because there wasn't enough funding. We talked on that video that there isn't funding for every pregnant woman to have progesterone if needed. That's ridiculous, isn't it? That we're in this space that we can support pregnancy loss, obstetrics and fertility in a much better way if we had access to funding. Look at even the fertility lottery in the UK.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, you'll get one fully funded cycle, or you could go to another area and you get 3 fully funded cycle. We're not underestimating any clinical or medical condition. Everything needs support and science and research to improve our medical fields and to make things better. But women's health, sadly, has had a real knockdown for far too long. And I'm really pleased to say that the campaigns at the moment through government are incredible, and they are sitting up and they are recognising that these are valid medical conditions that need support and need funding to improve how we move forward with those.
Brilliant. This is a really difficult topic to approach, but I think we need to recognise that it absolutely isn't just women that have an issue when it comes to miscarriage. Male fertility needs to be looked at as well within that context. If you've been going through any of the issues that we've been talking about today, there are support organisations out there for you, such as Tommy's and Miscarriage Association. MSJ can signpost lots of organisations that would be beneficial for you to connect with. If you want to leave comments below, please do. If you've been going through something similar, please remember to be kind. This is a really difficult subject to talk about, and we appreciate anybody sharing their experiences. Thank you for watching, and before we go, please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that notification bell. We'll see you next time.